President Trump is declaring victory against ISIS in Syria as his administration prepares to withdraw U.S. forces from the country. We have defeated ISIS in Syria. My only reason for being there during the Trump presidency, Trump tweeted Wednesday morning. The White House confirmed in a statement that the administration has started returning United States troops home, but emphasized the coalition efforts in Syria would continue. It also reiterated Trump's claim that the United States has defeated the territorial caliphate. Yeah. These victories over ISIS and Syria do not signal the end of the global coalition or its campaign, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a statement. We have started returning United States troops home as we transition to the next phase of this campaign, her statement said. The United States and our allies stand ready to re-engage at all levels to defend American interest whenever necessary, and we will continue to work together to deny radical Islamist terrorist territory funding support and any means of infiltrating our borders. Trump's tweet and the White House statement come after the Washington Journal, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post reported that Trump is preparing to immediately pull the 2,000 U.S. troops in the country fighting the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. The report of plans to withdraw U.S. troops were immediately blasted by Senator Lindsey Graham, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and a staunch ally of Trump. Graham likened such a move to an Obama-like mistake, which is kind of ironic. So that's enough of the press release by The Hill. I had earlier done this stream for those who were here, and it crashed because I had some stuff I had to do and interrupted way before I would have liked it to. But this story is too significant for me to give up on by virtue of a crash stream. Back in October of 2015, Obama sent troops to Syria, and this was a couple of years after they had violated a red line that his administration had set up. And this is ironically enough being this piece of history of him sending those troops back in October of 3 years ago is by being thrown out the window to have never existed by Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina. So pulling troops out is actually the complete opposite of what Obama would do. And I'm saying that again as someone that is not a fan of Trump, not a fan of the Democrats, just not a fan of wars, even more than either party. So whenever I have members of one party or the other acting in a way that I support, regardless of what, whether it's a D or R next to their name, I back it. And this story really is more significant for its reaction because there's a thing that's been floated around. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. Say hello to Envoy, where you have these people who basically will oppose anything he does by virtue of them just not liking him. So if he came out tomorrow and said we need free college, all the people that like Bernie, if they have Trump derangement syndrome, would say, that's insane. We'll never go for that. If he comes out tomorrow and says we need to not do the wall, you would have Democrats come and go, that's insane. We need to get the wall. And it's kind of funny that there's actually a clip of Hillary endorsing the wall during the campaign cycle where she said that we needed a barrier. But, people act like those two were so completely radically different from each other, which is comical. But I wanted to highlight a couple of reactions because they're very indicative of what I'm talking about. So let me just go over to his Twitter page. Also, I have to give one senator, Rand Paul, credit because he is my favorite Republican senator. He's actually one that votes with Trump the least out of any of them. And he has called for ending wars and non-interventionism his entire time as a senator. So he very consistently congratulated or rather applauded Trump for doing this. And it's just so nice to see people act the way they're, consistent with how they act before, even in the sense of, I'm opposed to the position of Lindsey Graham, but to his credit, that's been the position he's taken just as a senator, being a hawk on war. So it makes sense for him to react that way, those two, even if I don't agree with the other position of the other person. Let me see if I can find. There was a tweet by Mia Farrow that drove me crazy because this is one of the same kind of people who a lot of times gets touted as a hero for being anti-war, just being opposed to whatever the person in the White House is doing. Her response to Trump is, "You are putting America in danger. Military experts tell us that ISIS remains active, and leave, if we leave, we'll expand while they celebrate in Moscow, Iran, and Damascus. The same military experts that lied us into Iraq. Yeah, we should trust them again. We'll see." Jesus Christ. Yes, I did the stream earlier, Marco, but it got sidelined. There was a whole discussion by Envoy and this other person about something that was completely unrelated to this, among other things. It didn't end as in a manner that I thought was appropriate. She also wrote, "As Trump pulls troops out of Syria, we must acknowledge the enormity of the world's failure to halt a humanitarian catastrophe. U.S. exit benefits Russia, ISIS still active, Iran, and Assad. Was this agreed to during Putin-Trump's 2-hour Helsinki meeting without witnesses?" Carmelo, your comment was pushed back by YouTube. I didn't mess with it. Israel can drop some. Oh yeah, Israel is and Saudi Arabia are the only reasons we're even in Syria. They're trying to be against Iran, and anytime Israel has a problem having to do with any other country, the U.S. has to be its little bootlicker and do anything it wants. So that's the true reason that we had that conflict. No, it's all right, Envoy. I know that it takes two to tangle. I just that's among a couple of things as to why we have to redo this. I also, failed to include, again, my bad, the reactions of people that I thought were of significance, because they really show you how they'll have one position one day, another position the other day, and it seems like it's always contingent on what Trump does. Like there's never any consistency, which again, I had to give credit to the people who actually chose to act like like we remember them from last week, and having a position that is consistent with those they've displayed prior. I'm trying to find Pelosi's comment. Maybe she didn't comment. Let's look for Schumer. I just know he's getting attacked by people who are supposed to be left wing for not being right wing enough. Let's see here. Yeah, O'Donohue, Ron Paul was great. He was the first presidential candidate I ever supported. All right, Schumer writes, "Every member of the Senate Dems just told Trump to uphold the rule of law and defend health." Okay, that's unrelated to this. This is the Mueller investigation, NAFTA. So, wow, they're keeping quiet. Carmelo says globalists are pissed. All these senators said they get their profits cut from lobbyist deals, position, and defense deals. Oh, well, that's the reason that any of them even supported. As long as they can make a pretty penny from defense contractors, they'll sell out the lives of thousands of American service members like that. It's the same thing in Yemen. We had Bernie get with Mike Lee, and it's significant to this because it's the same kind of mindset. You get a rather liberal-leaning senator with a Republican, so it's a bipartisan bill, and it's supposed to get the U.S. out of Yemen in a month. And it gets a couple of Republicans to vote for it, which allows it to pass in the Senate, but it failed in the House by a couple of votes. In the immediate hours before it was voted on, the Senate Majority Leader, McConnell, went up and said, "Please don't vote for this bill. It's going to hurt our relationship with Saudi Arabia." So he basically was saying, look, I don't care if 85,000 children under the age of 5 die from starvation or getting bombed by us, which is what has happened. As long as we're buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia, let's keep this little gravy train of death and destruction on its continued collision course. And he got to say that without the media reporting on it hardly, or anyone criticizing or condemning, nothing. And, I've spoken a lot of times about why foreign policy, when I hear it come out, when I hear positions on it come out the mouths of most senators and members of the House, it always feels like it's a joke, because you never see any of them talk about that particular issue unless it's around the time some major event happens. So when I saw these senators all vote for this thing, I still was upset that it took Khashoggi's death for them to now change their position. Just like with Trump, he had in Bob Woodward's book a quote where he asked his generals, or his rather people in his administration, why can't we just pull out of Afghanistan? And they lost their minds and were going insane, kind of like what's going on today. And people who were fans of his said, see, look, he's more moderate than the rest of the Republicans. I said, yeah, but he's still kowtowing to his subordinates. You know, he's the one who makes the decision. So it seems as if he actually was the person who overrode those that were below him. But again, when you show some semblance of leadership, because it takes a strong person to get told they're wrong by loads and loads of people and just still do it anyway, or at least a momentary amount of strength for those that don't like him. Which, you know, you're not exactly that far off from my position, but it still is something that's more courageous than just kowtowing to the rest of his team. But you know, Democrats don't give you credit for anything because they're opposed to any and everything from the other side in our tribalist era. So he's getting condemned by them for ending a war, for making peace, for not even for making peace, just withdrawing our troops and trying to save lives. Oh, did Carmelo write this before? Mr. wrote this when I wasn't looking. The unwinnable wars only occur to make money. Yeah, and we're apparently never going to get rid of Citizens United, so we're going to still have that incentive, which sucks. No, Marco, you should have seen it. People were going insane in that chat room. You had O'Donohue with his 30 accounts trying to mess with me. He was speaking on a whole wide range of topics. It was crazy. So we can't find the Democratic leaders of either chamber of Congress and their reactions to this, but you can probably guess what it is. I did also want to put up Rubio's reaction, which was significant because it's in that same line of thinking. Basically, whenever I see them talk about the U.S. needs to stay over there because if we don't, everything's going to go to hell. I look back and I say, look, we've lost thousands of lives, millions of dollars. Everything's already gone to hell. Senators put billions in the next 25% bill to be passed so they can go home. Yeah, because they're trying to recess ahead of Christmas. The easiest job in the world. They want us to feel bad for them over. Trump pulls troops. Billions go to. You wrote Pentagon. I can't understand what you're writing. You can type it again. I might be able to get it. Let's see what Rubio said. The decision to pull out of Syria was made despite overwhelming military advice against it. It is a major blunder. If it isn't reversed, it will. He writes it. And this is someone that is a college graduate. In his official statement rebuking the withdrawal of war, he writes it. Oh my God. Okay, it is a major blunder. It isn't reversed. It will haunt this administration and America for years to come. What does that even mean? How will it haunt us? So he then writes, I found someone who is supportive of the decision to retreat from Syria, and then he takes Russia. Look, all this stuff is grandstanding. Netanyahu said of Syria retreat, we will make sure Israel's security is preserved and we'll defend ourselves from this arena. So again, bootlicking for Israel and writing blanket opaque statements that no one really knows what it means. This will haunt us for years to come. How? Again, no definition, no explanation, just more nonsense. Courtesy of the United States Senate. And those are the people that millions vote for, so they can get on Twitter and write, a fake tough guy message rebuking the president that they vote with over 80% of the time. Lastly, I wanted to highlight a discussion I had that was very brief because I chose for it to be that way, with a user that was on Twitter. And this person had said to me because me and this other individual who is, I think, more conservative leaning agreed that it was good to get out of Syria. That, we've won nothing from being in all these different wars. These 6 people who are in here might not know this, but we're currently bombing 7 countries: Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, Pakistan, and Libya, as well as Syria. So that's, theoretically now going to be 6. But when we were talking, there was a user who came on my post, or rather on the my response to this person's post, and said, uh, you know, Congress is saying that this is dumb, and the military is saying that this is dumb. And I said, well, that's why I always make the claim that the U.S. is run by fools, because the people at the top, and look, this is a position that Trump himself invoked when he was running for president. He talked about our leadership is stupid, the people at the top. That was correct. They're dumb. And, she writes Congress as if there's some unanimous disillusion with this decision, as if they've now polled all 535 current members of Congress. And they've all said, yeah, that was a bad idea. In reality, you have what, 5 senators that have come out and said, I oppose this. And that's supposed to be enough for me to go, yeah, we would just steer the course. Let's stay in this war even longer. So in response to that, I wrote something, and then, she said something about him getting his ideas from Fox and Friends and all the other news stations that are on Fox. And I said, is that so? And then I went over to, you guys know who Brian Kilmeade is. He's one of the Fox commentators, the Fox and Friends host. And on his page, he wrote, U.S. withdraws from Syria. You made a mistake when Syria, Russia, Hezbollah, and Iran are celebrating. At President Trump, reverse your decision. So does that sound like a comment of approval? Does that sound like someone who is lockstep with the move that was made? And look, I'm not bringing any of this stuff up to try and say that these people are correct or smart. No, I'm doing it because when they make comments like that about, the president, if you go on her page right now, it's all a bunch of Russian stuff, Mueller and Stormy and all this other crap that has nothing to do with foreign policy. So, I know this is not a person who's spent time educating herself on this issue. And there are a lot of people who don't know about this stuff because the media generally keeps quiet about it. They don't talk about the casualties or the death toll, anything. So when I see a person like that, who you look through her post history and it's all about Russia and Stormy and the rest of the nonsense that doesn't matter, it is them sticking their nose in discussions about an issue that they are ignorant of. And you can tell that they are by virtue of what they spend their time talking about. If someone wants to make an informed critique of any of these countries, they would go and look up the U.S.'s relations with it in the past, how long we've had troops there, how many bombs we've deployed, all of which is public information. But instead, she retorts to bringing up Putin and the Helsinki meeting and all of this stuff that has nothing to do, a bunch of irrelevant, empty crap. And people applaud that, which is why I say they have Trump derangement syndrome. I have not agreed with a single thing this man has done in office prior to today, other than the North Korea summit, because that appeared to be in the pursuit of peace. Although his Treasury Department I think it was 2 weeks ago, they put sanctions on top North Korean officials. So it's like taking one step forward, one step back. But again, still cognizant enough to recognize he himself did not make that decision. It was that particular department. And, I talk about wanting to stay true to certain principles. So if it's, regardless of if it's Trump or a Democrat or whoever that makes the move to withdraw us from a war that I think is a waste of time and a waste of effort, I'm going to applaud it. And that doesn't sit well with a lot of the resistors, if they can even call themselves that. These are the same kind of people that when we had that ridiculous military budget, as long as it was opposed by Trump, they were opposed to it. If it was supported by Trump, they would, they would have the reverse position every time, because they have no ideology. They have no set of principles. It's just a bunch of empty suits. Just like, they sit here and they get pissed about the family separation thing, which, policy I don't agree with. But here's the thing: ICE has existed since 2005. Um, so for 12 years, you let this agency, that's how long it was before Trump got in office. For 12 years, you let this agency sit here and do all of the same evil stuff that it's doing now. But because he's in office, we're supposed to go, we need to get rid of ICE. We need to go. And look, I'm not even opposed to doing any of that stuff. But let's not sit here and now become upset that what was happening before is now a problem, whereas before it was something you just ignored and pretended didn't even exist. Okay, thank Mar, who I've seen in my comment section a lot of times. I wish I did some streams with you in it. The big problem is that the U.S. has lost all persuasion in the Middle East. That means the U.S. tax dollar will fall, and at the same toy. I don't know what that. Just put the extra L. Just type a L in there, and I'll know what it is. I'm not saying that to be funny. When I read certain stuff that people write, it occasionally will confuse me because there's like a little itty bitty misspelling. Time only Israel be left to protect. Yeah, well, Israel is the only reason we're even in Syria. Like I said, the U.S. government has two countries that it doesn't matter if you elect a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a libertarian, a Green Party, the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, the Black Panther Party. They will always step for these two countries, Israel and Saudi Arabia. Those two. At every turn. So, you can get to all this crap about we were stopping the terrorists in Syria. No, we're stopping we're assisting Israel and Saudi Arabia as they push back against Iran, who's done nothing to us. Yeah, well, every party, it doesn't matter. Just like I keep trying to explain to people, look at individual candidates. If you have a Republican that's anti-war, I'll vote for him. It's that simple. Democrat that's anti-war, I'll vote for them. If they have an actual record, I'll back them. See if I can find Gutfeld's comment, if he even wrote one. Thank Mars says we are losing Saudi Arabia Saudi Arabia has an ally in the influence we hold over them. Good. Then go to hell. Not the people who live there who are under an oppressive regime, but the Saudi government that is trash. Just like the Israeli government, that the same one that they fired Mark Lamont Hill for speaking accurately on about its human rights abuses. Which actually, that reminds me, there's a comment by, what senator was that? Ben Sass. I read this earlier where he was responding, and it was the most ironic thing I've seen all year. It's like, it's as much projection as when Susan Collins, who has taken over $20 million in campaign contributions from these donors, went around saying that people who were trying to get her to vote against Kavanaugh by offering money to her primary opponent were trying to bribe her. It's like, you've already been bribed, and you were fine with it when it was they just told you it was big actual corporations, but when it's people, oh no, that's a big problem. Ugh. Yeah, a Republican that's anti-war, like a Rand Paul or a Ron Paul, those two, or a Mike Lee, who I haven't seen as many of the political views of, but that Yemen thing was great, getting out of there, or him supporting that gave me a higher opinion of him. So Sass writes, this is the Republican from Nebraska. 8 days ago, the administration called a hypothetical pullout reckless. Today, we're leaving. The president's generals have no idea where this weak decision came from. They believe the high-fiving winners today are Iran, ISIS, and Hezbollah. The losers are Israel, humanitarian victims, and U.S. intelligence gathering, Sass said in a statement referring to terror group, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. A lot of American allies will be slaughtered if this retreat is implemented. So let's stop there for a moment. The losers are Israel. Ask yourself, what has Israel ever done for you? Again, not Jews, the Israeli government. What has that ever done for you? Did they put food on your table? Did they offer America aid, during anything we've ever gone? No. So why do we care? The next one is humanitarian victims. which is, I mean, you can't say that those in Israel are victims at the same time with a straight face, which is why he typed this out and then go on TV and say it. Israel's government has been behind many human rights abuses. The U.S. government has been behind human rights abuses. We have torture with our CIA. So let's not even pretend that's a position that we've ever championed. Hell, out of all of our foreign policy, we've only ever had what one president, what Carter, that was really caring about human rights. Other than that, it's always been we have had no problem with it. Okay, Thankmore says key is we need to go green. What we can afford to play is carbon taxes. Lose because we won't be able to afford to move to green power. Yeah, we can do a whole environmental stream. Thanks, Thankmore, if you want that. Just send me a message that you're interested in doing that. But these are the kind of responses that Trump is getting. And look, he says right here, this is a weak decision. But it's like, dude, your whole last 2 years in office have been making the weak decision of backing Trump on every single thing he's done up to this point. So why should I take you seriously? The only reason you're getting any slight pushback from any of these Republican senators is because they want to keep their defense contractor coins from their little donors, and they value that over maybe possibly pissing off Trump supporters that could vote for them as well. That's it. If it wasn't for the money, they wouldn't care at all that we're getting out of here. But they will take that cash over human lives. So that shows you how big of an empty suit that they are, or empty suits rather, plural. Now, Envoy, you had asked me during the previous stream if I believed that Trump would pull out of Yemen, and I said no, because the Republicans in Congress have, for the most part, been opposed to getting out of there, and Trump himself has refused to condemn the Saudis over Khashoggi, which is pretty much the simplest thing you can do at this point if it comes to trying to show strength, and I use that in quotation marks, against the Saudis. So we had to pass in the Senate. We're going to have to put it back up next year with the new Congress and just have to fight them. It just barely missed, but I think it can be done. Just have to flip a few Republicans, get some Democrats to, get some stuff behind them as far as political pressure. It can be achieved, but it's not going to come from the White House. And it's really sad because, these kind of moments are things that should have been done a long time ago. And if they had been done, I could kind of maybe look the other way on some other stuff. He had the NAFTA thing with being opposed to that form of trade, which was a correct position in my opinion, and then does a new NAFTA. So those are things that I can say, all right, well, I'd rather take new NAFTA versus some new war that loads and loads of people have to die in, but I'd rather take getting out of all of these wars over anything else. Let's see. Thank Mar. So it's really a shame. It's sad when he makes a decision I really like, and then the people who are typically his supporters that are in Congress try to make it seem like it's a doomsday nightmare, hell on earth scenario, when the doomsday nightmare, hell on earth scenario were all the soldiers who died for no reason and the billions of dollars that were wasted in all of these conflicts. Again, in Yemen, for a couple of coins, money that we could make from here with higher taxes or just sitting and not spending. We've killed 85,000 children under the age of 5 by helping them to be starved and bombed to death. We have also spent, or rather, we've helped spread cholera and have 10,000 cases of it coming in daily, just being reported, more and more people being found with this. The worst humanitarian crisis in modern history. And the U.S. has helped spearhead that. And none of these Republicans that are talking about human rights abuses like Ben Sass are complaining about that. And you know why they're not? Because they're empty suits, because they don't care about anyone but themselves and their donors. So, if he thought, okay, maybe I can just toe the line for Trump for a few years before he leaves office, I can run for president myself. And now his donors are saying, hey, boy, you go out there and you oppose the president. Yeah, I'm for empty suits. Told you when I come on here, this is not the I hate Trump show. If he does something I like, I'll defend him. I defended him over the North Korea summit. I defended him over the Helsinki thing when you had people complaining about the lack of candor he showed when confronting Putin. Who cares? Has Putin dropped the bomb on us? Oh, he tried to hack an election. You guys act like you haven't tried to hack elections. They act like the CIA didn't overthrow the Iranian government in 1953 just to get oil. The democratically elected leader. No, Envoy, I just don't believe in bootlicking for either party. If one does something I like, I give them credit for. If one doesn't, I give them hell for it. I don't hate him. I hate certain positions because they are actively dangerous to large groups of people. This is not one of them. But even if it, let's say you spin it and go, oh, more people are going. It's like, dude, look at how many of our service members have been murdered from just being over there. So again, objectively speaking, I can't criticize him for doing this. I hope we get more withdrawals. I hope there's a withdrawal every couple of months, if not couple of days. But I know that probably won't happen. And it won't be because Trump is so steady to have all of these wars and conflicts going on. It's because the people around him, as he said during his camp. Let me see if I can find that clip because he summarized it better than I can. Man, thank Mar, you are on a roll. When we do end using oil, we need to get to aid the Middle East into aqua farming with sea level. All right, I'll read the rest of that soon. See if I can find it. All right, I think this is it.
Sorry, I'm going on vacation now. So our politicians all talk, no action.
They are all talk and no action. He said 3 years ago, and it has been very true today. You go and you look at all the little idiot warmongers. I don't care if they're in Congress. I don't care if they're a celebrity. I don't care if they're an unknown person like myself that are saying we need to stay over there because, this proves that Trump is bought out by Putin. Ask them if they're going to put on their helmet and go get shipped over there and die like all the other people that serve honorably in the military. That's what we should do every time we have the warmongers come around trying to stay in the war. Tell them to go put their helmet on and go over there in the place of people that have died for no reason other than for people who were already rich to make money. But they won't do that because, as Trump said, they're all talk and no action. So I hope this one is. I think it's gone better than the other one. It's a sad day when we have quote unquote liberals who, they've become so upset with this man that they don't even know to where they can't even objectively see reality anymore. You have so many people who prior to today were not pro-war, but were opposed to it because Trump was doing it. And now that he stopped, they want to keep it going. Or they want to pretend that this goes back to the Mueller-Russia thing when it has nothing to do with that. Oh my God, Russia applauded him for... So what? Foreign countries have stuff to say about each other all the time. But let's pretend that Russia is the reason this happened. Who cares? I would rather have, you know what? I don't care if Russia went into the if Putin went into the White House, bent Trump over, and said, you will pull out of Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia. I don't care if he bent him over and said that as long as it's done. It's like people just keep missing the bigger picture. I've never seen to these heights. The media has portrayed Trump as the boogeyman what the left has, and people can't see beyond it. Yeah, it's completely derailed their way of thinking. I'm scared if he gets more moderate than anything else, they're going to just be opposed to it because it's him. Envoy says, to be honest, he has done some, but there's a bigger picture. No. I told you, Envoy, there's only two things he's done in office that I liked, And this is one of them. And so when it happens, I don't care if, again, what party it's from, I'll back him. And I'm just so disgusted by people that want me to be on their anti-Trump team, which I, normally am because I'm opposed to other policies of his, now getting upset with me for being happy that service members are coming back from a conflict they should have never been in the first place. So I hope we get more withdrawals. The more I see is going, I don't think society is bound to give. Well, I could do another one, but I've tried to turn Saturdays into the Iran series as Thank Mark commented on the other one. You can check that out. So thank you for watching, and I call on people to just think for yourself. Don't play this little party thing. Just ask yourself, do you want to stay in a war, or do you want to get out of it and don't really care what party does it? I will not have a positive opinion of Trump when he leaves office, but I will always give him credit if this goes through for pulling out of Syria. That's the way politics should work. If someone does something you like, you say you're glad. But unfortunately, in the partisan era, people are one way one day, one way the other. So, as I said before, the U.S. is governed by fools, and into the toilet we go.